Live from my mother's basement, here's Johnny. And we're losing all the audio and I'm moving. Okay. So here's the thing. A while back, I posted a video about booking the WWE Championship from the Royal Rumble all the way through Survivor Series for this year. And right now I'm going to do the first video on this installment that books the WWE Championship from the Royal Rumble up through the WrestleMania event. I hope that it does not take a half hour, but I'm not promising anything. So, let me get to my notes here. Awesome. Again, this is fantasy booking, and this is my idea of what would be the best way to go. If you have a different idea or opinion, just feel free to leave it, but also do a response video, because that's what this was all about. This was a challenge that I had presented because I just don't feel like the people that are behind the creative team in wrestling right now give a shit and are giving us anything that's anywhere near entertaining. And I hope by the end of this series that it shows you that just sitting down for a little while and having a long-term vision can really aid in the product. I think that you guys are going to enjoy this, and I don't think that anybody would really have anything too terrible to say about this in all actuality. So let's get to the first thing. Let's get to the Royal Rumble, and let's get to doing this Book It Better series. This is something I really want to start doing for the long term, for more than just the WWE Championship. But that would really require me spending more time watching WWE. So I might do it for TNA next. But anyway, here we go. And so we're taking this right from now, from when Punk is going to take on The Rock at WrestleMania, or blah, at the Royal Rumble. Wow, I'm out of it. Okay. So at the Royal Rumble, we're going to assume that The Rock versus CM Punk is the main event, and that it follows the Royal Rumble. Now, this isn't a normal thing. Normally the Royal Rumble match is the last match, but because this is so hyped up and has been hanging out there so long, I think that it's very important that we get this finish the way that it happens. So in the Royal Rumble match, we're going to have John Cena enter at number 19. And he's going to start eliminating a lot of people because he's on his quest. Okay? And then by the time it gets to entrance number 29, I want there to be like 4 or 5 guys in the ring, Cena being one of them. But entrance 29 is a surprise entrance from Brock Lesnar. And when Brock Lesnar comes out, he's going to hit everybody like a fucking truck. And what's going to happen is it's going to end up being Lesnar, Cena, and one other guy left by the time entrance number 30 happens. And when entrance number 30 happens, the lights go out, and then the gong hits, and then none other than The Undertaker comes back and makes his Royal Rumble debut again, unannounced. I think that's the best way to do it. And then he's going to eliminate both men, who essentially eliminate themselves in the process. And he wins the chance to go on to WrestleMania to wrestle in the main event for whichever title. And obviously he's going to choose the WWE Championship, otherwise I wouldn't have put that in here. And then I have here on my notes that CM Punk retains against The Rock at the Royal Rumble. And the way that I would do this is to have interference from the Shield. When Rock is about to pin Punk, I would just have them come down and just DQ finish. And I know that that's a shitty way to get out of a pay-per-view. And a DQ finish is really awful. But it kind of has to happen that way because it's going to set up to something more bigger. I know that that would make a lot of people angry, and a lot of people would probably tune off of the product at that point. But I think that by the end of the year, in doing this, I would have saved it. So bear with me. Now on the next Raw after that, obviously this wasn't fair to The Rock, so he is announced to be a contender for the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view match. And since Punk is the champion, he's going to be a given. And the other contenders in that match are going to be none other than Ambrose, Reigns, and Rollins, the Shield. And then Vicky Guerrero says that a later mystery man will be announced at a later date. So, the Raw right before Elimination Chamber, you're going to see Heyman coming out of Vicky Guerrero's office, and he's going to have a smile on his face. So it's going to be Heyman out in the ring with CM Punk talking about the match, and then all of a sudden you're going to get Brock Lesnar's music, and he's going to return and make his way down. And Heyman's going to, look like he's going to explode with happiness because it's Rock up against, like, the most serious odds you'd ever see him against. And Brock Lesnar is clearly the guy that's going to be the next one in that match. So he comes to the ring and stares down The Rock first. And Heyman is like, loving it. But then he stares down CM Punk. And Heyman gets like the lump in his throat kind of thing. And he's like, oh no, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. And the show closes with him kind of in Punk's face a little bit, just looking down at him, being intimidating. Now, at the start of the Elimination Chamber, that's pretty good, right? Brock Lesnar gets attacked by a masked man with a sledgehammer, and he's declared unfit to compete. And at the last minute in that match, he's replaced by Mick Foley, who happened to be at the pay-per-view. Bang, bang. And now Punk is really out of his mind because, as much as Lesnar could have done some teamwork with him, Foley had been against him at the Survivor Series of the year before, and this is kind of an intrigue point. So I'm just going to take us to that main event then. The Rock starts the match. It's going to be against Seth Rollins. Rock eliminates Rollins. Dean Ambrose is the next person to enter, and he's able to hold The Rock at bay until Roman Reigns comes in to help him. So they're going to 2-on-1 The Rock for a while. Neither one of them can pin him and eliminate him. Mick Foley enters then after that, and he helps Rock to eliminate both of the Shield members, so that when Punk is able to come out of his Elimination Chamber thing, it's going to end up being a 2-on-1. So Punk tries his best to run away, but he can't because he's getting trapped between the two. He goes to the outside, and if he runs one way, he's going to run into The Rock. If he runs another way, he's going to run into Foley. So, he eventually just kind of gets laid out. But then The Rock, wanting to win the match, gives his finisher to Mick Foley. Wait, no, I read that wrong. So, The Rock gives his finisher to CM Punk, and Foley pulls out the mandible claw. This makes more sense. Sorry. So The Rock is going to save Punk from tapping because he wants to win the match. So Foley and Rock are going to stare each other down for a minute. They're going to argue a little bit. They're going to talk about Rock and Sock and all this other shit. So then Rock is going to hit Punk with another finisher, Rock Bottom, but Foley's going to break up the count. And they're going to argue back and forth some more and do some more antics in the middle of the ring. So this is going to give Punk the chance to wipe out Foley, which he does, and he just brawls with Rock. So again, we have the CM Punk Rock interaction, just like we had the Royal Rumble one, in kind of a one-on-one situation. And so Rock is going to get the upper hand. And then Punk is going to go get covered by The Rock, but Foley's going to get the jump on him and break it up. And when he turns around to, kind of give it to McFoley's going to low blow him. And then he's going to give Paul Heyman the thumbs up because McFoley is a Paul Heyman guy. And The Rock is going to get pinned. And then it's going to be just Punk and Foley in the match. And Foley is going to beg for a microphone, which Heyman is going to give to him. And Foley announces that he just doesn't have his heart to continue and forfeit the match. Therefore, CM Punk retains. So that's what's happened at the last two pay-per-views. We'll recap a little bit. Taker won the Royal Rumble, and then Punk retained in kind of a BS fashion at the Royal Rumble. And then Punk retained again at Elimination Chamber to get himself en route to WrestleMania as a champion. McFoley turned on The Rock and screwed The Rock. So this is the generalized thought that we're having here now. Brock Lesnar was supposed to come back and compete, but he got taken out by a masked man with a sledgehammer. So, let's see, where are we right now? Okay, good, we got time. So, the next night, Brock Lesnar is hunting down the Shield, and he's looking for answers because he thinks that the masked men were the Shield. And he's jumped by the masked man again with the same sledgehammer. But this time the guy is going to leave a note, and it says, "Game over, Brock." So then Punk is going to celebrate with Foley and Heyman in the ring that night, right after the Elimination Chamber. When Taker's music hits, and they're all going to go like deathly white, and Taker's going to look at Punk, and then to Heyman. Heyman is just begging and pleading with him not to go after him, to go after the world title. And Foley doesn't seem all that surprised that Taker is out there. He looks to the WrestleMania sign, and he looks back to Punk. Punk tells Foley to get him, but Taker chokeslams Foley right through the celebration cake. And he gives Punk the... and just leaves. Call it that. Just leaves. So then we're going to have the next week. The next week, Brock Lesnar is talking to Heyman about who keeps getting the jump on him. Heyman says that a special letter arrived for Brock Lesnar, and they're going to open it. And it's a SummerSlam ticket stub from the first row of 2012. And there's a little note in it that Heyman reads, and it says, "This isn't over." So later that night, Vicky Guerrero is talking to Ric Flair, but when they notice that the camera's on him, the conversation comes to a really quick end, and they just shake hands, part ways, and Flair says, "You won't be sorry." Right, so now we're 3 weeks in. Punk tries to get out of the match with The Undertaker any way that he can. He's got lawyers and doctors and people telling him that he's unfit to compete, and he's out there just singing and dancing. But he gets interrupted by Brock Lesnar, and at first Punk's like, "What the fuck? What did I do? Is he gonna come kick my ass?" But Lesnar is demanding that Triple H come out and face him like a man, and that he's not scared of anybody. He'll be happy to beat the game right here, right now, blah, whatever. So the Shield members come out surrounding the masked man. The masked man is carrying a sledgehammer, and Heyman is just like, "What the fuck?" Because all this time Heyman thought that the Shield was on the side of Punk. But Brock tells the masked man that he's not fooling anyone, and he's not going anywhere until Triple H gets in the ring. Because, he's convinced that the masked man is Triple H. Because he's Brock Lesnar, and he's stupid like that. The masked man begins to walk toward the ring, but stops halfway down the entryway. Then another masked man comes from out of the crowd with another sledgehammer and attacks Lesnar in the ring. So Punk just runs for the hills. The masked man then is choking out Lesnar with a sledgehammer, and the first man comes down to the ring and tells him to stop. Yeah, just tells him, all right, it's enough. So Teddy Long comes out and books a tag team match for later that night, playa, where it's going to be Punk and Lesnar versus the two masked men. So we get to later on that night in the main event. During the match with the masked men, there's a ref bump. And Lesnar and Punk, they throw one of the masked men to the floor so that they can double team the other one. And the Shield capitalizes on this and runs down to the ring. But they're going to get right to the ring, and then the Rock's music is going to hit. He barrels down and just whooping ass all day long. And it looks like everything is just going to be a fucking mess, clusterfuck, like it's going to be a stupid end of Raw. But Mick Foley comes out in a referee shirt to, like, save the day. And he whispers something into Paul Heyman's ear before he gets in the ring. And then the other masked man, he gets a sledgehammer from underneath the ring. So there's like a million sledgehammers around. And Punk and Lesnar get out of the ring. And Foley has the bell rung. And he calls the match a victory for Punk and Lesnar. But because it's a disqualification at that point. And when he turns around to face the masked men, they just fucking do a number on him. They obliterate him. So that's the end of Raw. Now, the next week, Heyman and Punk are confronting the Shield. They want to know what the hell the Shield are doing allied with the masked men. But Ambrose tells Punk that they're there to serve and protect. Heyman tells them that they better think about protecting themselves because there is a 3-on-2 handicap match that night where the Shield is going to take on The Rock and The Undertaker. And Heyman, Foley, and Punk are going to be at ringside to make sure that there's no funny business tonight. Is there going to be funny business? You bet. So later that night, Brock Lesnar is found talking to Vicky Guerrero, who is more than happy to make the match for WrestleMania official between Triple H and Lesnar. And there's going to be a contract signing later tonight in the main event just to make it official. So, during the handicap match, The Undertaker dominates Seth Rollins while the other two Shield members go after The Rock on the outside. Foley distracts the referee, giving Heyman time to slip a chair to Ambrose as a peace offering. Ambrose is going to give Heyman a thumbs up, and he goes to attack The Rock with the chair, but he's given the big boot by Taker. He's on the outside now. Foley points to Ambrose laid out with the chair next to him, so he's trying to get the ref's attention, but the ref says, I didn't see anything. So Foley gets up in the face of the ref and argues with him, which results in Roman Reigns brawling with Taker. They start trading strikes. But one of the masked men comes from underneath the ring and holds on to Taker while Reigns gets some really good shots in. So the ref is being distracted, all this is happening. The ref turns around and sees this, but Foley is going to just pull him out to the outside and lay him out. So now Heyman's guys, Punk and Foley, are watching to see what happens between the masked man and the Shield and The Rock, who's been rolled into the ring. So everybody just starts taking turns doing finishing moves of The Rock. They whip his ass. But Taker sits up in the middle of the ring. And the lights go out. When they come back on, only Heyman's guys and Undertaker are left out there. So Taker points to Punk, does the thumb over the throat thing, and Punk runs the fuck away like a little bitch. Later that night at the contract signing, Lesnar comes out first. He says he doesn't want to wait for WrestleMania. He wants to fight Triple H tonight. Then Ric Flair's music hits out of nowhere. He says that Triple H isn't the one who attacked Lesnar. Lesnar says that Flair has been kissing Triple H's ass for years and needs to take his old ass out of Brock Lesnar's ring. So Flair, of course, gets agitated in Ric Flair fashion when Brock Lesnar shoves him. And then John Cena's music hits, and he comes down and saves the fucking day because that's what he does. So Brock tries to intimidate Cena, but Flair gets on the microphone and says that Cena's already beat him, at Extreme Rules last year, and it wouldn't be a good idea with the both of them out there to start something that he couldn't finish. And Lesnar's screaming, and he's talking about how he just wants Triple H, and these two assholes are out there getting in his way, kind of thing. And then Vicky Guerrero shows up and has the contract in hand, and she shows everybody in the world Triple H's signature. and she asks Brock for his. So he signs it speedily. You know, he smiles to himself. He's all happy, but Flair starts laughing at him, and Vicky Guerrero starts cackling, and fucking John Cena giggles and gestures over at the contract and kind of winks at Ric Flair. So Brock's like, "What's so funny?" You know, but he says it in Brock Lesnar voice. Vicky tells him that at WrestleMania, Brock Lesnar doesn't have a match with Triple H. At WrestleMania, Brock Lesnar has a match with the Masked Man that attacked him. It's going to be a Falls Count Anywhere, no disqualification match. And if Brock Lesnar can win that match, then and only then will he get a shot at Triple H the same night. But if he loses, he'll no longer be employed in WWE. And John Cena wishes Lesnar the best of luck. And Brock says as soon as he's done with the Masked Man and Triple H, he's coming after Cena, and then he's coming after Flair. And that's the end of that show. So now we're at WrestleMania. And now we're also at like 20 some odd minutes. So I told you this was going to go a while. So at WrestleMania, the third match on the card is Lesnar versus the Masked Man. However, the Masked Man looks considerably different than he did on Raw just a few days ago. Remember, there's only been 2 Masked Men at this point. So Lesnar dominates the early ongoings of the match, but the Masked Man keeps finding ways to kick out. And so they brawl, because it's a Falls Count Anywhere match. And at one point in the back area of the parking lot, the Masked Man gets thrown down off of like a high-rise into some trash and garbage, and through like some tables or a dumpster or some shit on the outside of the arena. So the camera's going to cut back to the referee telling Lesnar that he can't win the match until he goes down there and pins him. So Lesnar's going to be like, oh, great. So he's looking for a way down. You know, he's thinking, do I jump down there after him? What do I do? So this is the point where 2 Masked Men show up, and they start to jump Lesnar with sledgehammers. Are we noticing the recurring theme? I really hope so, because I tried. So they're going to throw Lesnar down into the same garbage pile, you know. So then the camera follows them as they circle around trying to find like a staircase and get down there and do more damage. But at this point, Triple H and Vicky Guerrero come running onto the scene. Lesnar and the first Masked Man are just laid out. They're toast. Like they fell 10 or 15 feet. So Triple H is going to chase off the Masked Men, and Vicky Guerrero tells the referee to rule the match and no contest. You know, so Heyman's going to come out immediately. He's going to accuse Triple H of being behind this, and Triple H says, he cuts him off, and he says, you know, I'm just here to right the wrongs of the last few weeks, and tonight the people are going to get what they want. It's going to be Triple H versus Lesnar, and, you know, the loser is never going to wrestle in WWE again. And Heyman says, oh, you got it. You got it. You got whatever you want, you know, because Lesnar is obviously going to be irate. But he thinks about it. And at another point during the night, he goes to Vicky Guerrero and says, look, you got to stop this. Lesnar's hurt. Lesnar's this. You know, it's not a good idea. Let's do this another time. It doesn't need to happen. And Vicky essentially tells him that he's put his foot in his own mouth, whatever. So the match right before the main event of WrestleMania is the Triple H Lesnar match. So Heyman is going to come out right after Lesnar's entrance, and he's going to have a microphone. He's going to tell Lesnar that he doesn't have to do this. You know, he's walking down to the ring. He says, okay, I get it, it's personal, but live to fight another day. You know, he was thrown 15 feet, he could have been killed. You know, he needs to think, like, this is exactly what Triple H wants. But as soon as he gets to the ring, Lesnar picks him up by the collar and says, no, Paul, this is what we both want. And then Triple H's music hits. And before Triple H can get, you know, halfway down the entrance, Brock is going to just meet him, and they're going to brawl. And that's where it starts. And I figured it'd be like a great back and forth match between the two. Shades of SummerSlam. And in the very, very end, Lesnar is going to lock on the armbar. But when he does, Masked Men are just going to flood to the ring and take out the ref. So there's 3, if not 4 Masked Men now. It keeps growing. So one of the men grabs Heyman, lays him out, he's done. And Triple H acts like he doesn't know what's going on. And he kind of gets in their faces, he's confrontational, and they hand a sledgehammer to him. So he takes a good long look at it, like, oh, and then he looks at the crowd, and he just throws it down. And the masked men look at each other, and then they look at Triple H, and then each other again. It's just a big tension scene, right? And they give Triple H a thumbs down. And when this happens, they're about to, go after him. Because how could he do this after everything they've done for him, right? But then John Cena's music hits, and he comes down, and he's running down the aisle, and he chases off all the masked men. Heroic Cena, yay. But by this time, Lesnar's kind of like getting back to his feet. He's really groggy. So Triple H hits the pedigree on him. And then he revives the ref. But there's only a count of 2. So Triple H goes for another pedigree. But Lesnar takes his legs out from underneath him, and they start just brawling, trading punches on the mat. So while this is going on, another masked man comes to the outside of the ring, and just places a foreign object, maybe some knuckles or something, in a neutral corner. And the ref sees this, and he walks away from brawling, and he tries to go get the object. And he's like pointing at the other guy, and he's saying, "You need to get out of here right now. I'll throw this whole match out, whatever." So when this happens, there's another masked man that comes out of the crowd, and he slips a sledgehammer into the ring, while the other one has the ref's attention. So Triple H gets real close to the sledgehammer. And he's thinking about it. And he's like, do I, don't I, do I, don't I? But he has an attack of conscience, good conscience. He says, I'm not going to do that. So when he looks back, he gets speared by Lesnar, and he gets put into the fucking armbar. He's like inches away from the sledgehammer, right? And Lesnar's got it locked in real good. And and Triple H is reaching for the fucking hammer. Reaching for that hammer. But then, as he's about to close his hands on it, Lesnar twists and yanks like he did on TV and breaks Triple H's arm again. At least that's the story we're going to go with here. So Triple H taps out immediately, and the ref sees it, calls the match, done. So Triple H will never wrestle again. And then the masked men immediately come back and hit the ring, and they lay waste to the ref, and they proceed to attack Lesnar again. And so it's just a schmaz. And Vicky Guerrero comes running out with security, and a stretcher, some medics, and Cena and Flair are there too. Cena and Flair clear out the bad guys who get handcuffed away, and Triple H is kind of like fighting with the medics and doesn't want them to touch his arm. And Lesnar gets up to a neutral corner, and he wants a microphone, and he's demanding it, shouting, whatever. And he's about to get one, but Triple H says no. And he takes a microphone. He says, fighting through the pain to give this promo, right? He says, Brock, you're the hell of an athlete. And, he wrestled probably the best match of his career. He didn't think that it would end like that. He just can't believe, now Lesnar's taken away the one thing from him that Triple H really loves. And so it can't go unpunished. So he gives the thumb down sign now. Triple H does. And at this point, Flair hands the hammer to Cena, who is going to just beat the shit out of Lesnar with it. And then Flair is going to give Lesnar some stomps. And Triple H just smiles. And Vicky Guerrero is just horrified. Just like, what the fuck just happened? So then Cena, Flair, Triple H all go backstage with the medics. And Lesnar is left laying there in the middle of the ring. And that ends that camera shot. So that's pretty epic. And then in the main event of WrestleMania, I got lazy at this point because I just wrote all that other shit out. I'll wrap this up. Undertaker defeats CM Punk for the title in a match that doesn't have ref bumps, in a match that doesn't have run-ins, just a purely athletic wrestling match. Two great people having a good match, but he remains undefeated and becomes the WWE champion. And that's where we're going to stop because I think we're getting really far on time. Leave your thoughts and comments to that. And next time I'm going to try to do WrestleMania through, like the aftermath, through SummerSlam, if I can get it. Because that's a long ways to try to book. But I think I can do it. For now, this is Johnny, live from my mother's basement, signing out. I hope you like this video. Leave your own video response and see what you can do. Remember, this is Royal Rumble all the way up through Survivor Series. Good night.